Marcus Murray, and I just want to pick up where we left off. And we were talking about fear. Fear is just crazy. We're going to talk about one of the immobilizing features of fear. Actually, we're going to talk about the fear of failure. What is it that seems to be keeping the majority of us from actually engaging and taking action and moving forward into our purpose and our destiny? It's fear of failure. Why is this happening, and why are we allowing that to happen? It is failure. If you think about failure, failure is actually the proving ground for success. I look back over the years at the number of times that I've had to face failure, and it's actually mind altering the number of times. I was on a call, speaking with a friend who's very successful, a very successful business owner, and, what's amazing, we were having this dialogue back and forth. Obviously, I was sharing that there are a lot of different opportunities right now with all of the changing dynamics in America, a lot of great opportunities for extraordinary success. And I was just sharing with him some of the success that we've been able to experience recently. And I said, hey, you should get involved and you should roll your sleeves up and work with me. And I think it could be beneficial for you as well. He asked me a question, which was, something about failure. It was like he asked me, "Well, you" no, I asked him, "Do you think I've ever failed before?" And he said, "No." I said, "Pardon me?" He said, "No. I know that you're always successful." And so I then took it upon myself to disagree. And I said, "Actually, just so that you know, I failed so often, so many times that it's almost hard to count them." And I said, "But do you wanna know something? People do not remember your failures. They only acknowledge your failure while you're in it because it's a conversation point. In reality, failure, any person that has achieved any degree of true success, they will tell you that failure was a part of the process. You must fail. You have to fail. If you're not failing, if you've never failed, it only means you've never done anything. Everyone that has ever accomplished anything great has also faced significant setbacks and failures. We cannot fear failure. Failure, so I wrote a couple of things. Past failure helps build you, it builds your character. Past failures build your muscle. Past failures build your resilience. Past failures build your confidence. Past failure increases your wisdom. There is something about failure. It is absolutely necessary. We shouldn't run from failure. We shouldn't act as though we can't move because the fear of failure is paralyzing. And that's another thing. What the fear of failure actually in many instances causes us not to take action because it's like if I do it, I'm going to fail, okay? So, is staying the same actually an option? Is it, and if it is an option, is it a good option? And if it's a good option, is it the best option? Staying the same is not a winning strategy. Anything growing changes. And in order to go through a change where you intentionally make the decision to move forward in a positive way, failure comes with it. I look back at so many things I failed at, and it's just I failed in classes in school. I remember taking a class, I don't remember which one because you block it out of your mind. I try to forget failure. I take the lesson from it. I learn the lesson from the failure, but I'm not going to wallow in that. And I actually was working on my bachelor's degree and I took a class and it was a remote class and I failed the class. Absolutely failed it. I, at one point in my life, I changed my major. Actually, I've done that twice in life. I did it in my first round of schooling. I changed my major. Then I did it again as I was completing my master's degree. Uh, you just change. You just because I felt like I needed to make a change. So does that mean does it mean I am a failure? I failed to do the thing I purposed to do, but does that make me a failure? I believe that if you have to adjust, shift, or pivot, it does not make you a failure. It makes you wise. So there are people right now today that are listening to this podcast that because of fear, they won't take action. Because of fear, they won't write the book. Because of fear, they won't write the recipe book. They won't because of fear, they won't create the new thing that's been on their mind. Because of fear, they won't publish the song. Because of fear, they don't cook the cakes or bake the cakes and sell them, even though they do a wonderful job with it. It's because of fear. Do you know what I'm finding in just thinking about this? Fear, they won't go out on that date because of fear. They won't make that phone call because of fear. They won't apply for the new position or the promotion because of fear. They won't ask for what they want because of fear. They don't go to the places they want to go or the dates they want to go on because of fear. They just give in on everything because of fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. I just covered this a little bit ago, but it's prevalent. It's so prevalent right now. It's all over the place. But what we want to do is take that word fear, false evidence appearing real, and let's turn it into something. Let's put a little meat behind it, make it a little more aggressive. How about face every attack relentlessly? Make the decision that when you feel the sensation of fear, it's something that must be faced relentlessly without giving up until you're victorious. How about just changing the paradigm, the way we recognize the emotion, and then doing something about it? Exercise, engage, write, journal, call someone, talk about it, but do not allow fear to grow. How does fear grow? It grows when we're silent. It's when we have a thought about a particular subject or topic or action or thing that we should do, and we choose to take the route of silence. Fear has a way of silencing us, causing us to retreat from our plan, retreat from our purpose. There is no way to advance in fear. We have to let it go because it's not real. It's false evidence appearing real. Now imagine this for a moment. If we get our arms around fear and begin to move with faith and focus, then there's no room for fear. What I find is a lot of times, if you just dissect whatever the concern is, the fear kind of dissipates. Anything you face, when you face it, you realize, it wasn't that bad. Fear of failure, immobilizing fear, fear that keeps us from trying, we cannot allow it. We can't have it. There's something that you've been given to do. There are lives that you are supposed to impact. And the only way that it will happen is facing your fear. As a matter of fact, we have to practice, we have to develop the art of overcoming our fear. So, number one, what we want to do is write down, we want to use our pen and our paper, and we want to write down the things that we fear. Write them down. And then beside them, right? If this is true, the worst case scenario. So whatever the fear is, write it down and then right next to it, if that fear be true, what's the worst case scenario here? What does that look like? What happens as a result of this fear? I believe once you actually look at it that way, methodically, you begin to realize the things that we fear very rarely happen. Usually, fear is an emotional response to an anticipated negative experience. So, we're anticipating something negative happening. But usually, that thing does not happen, and we've wasted all of that energy in fear. Fear is very similar to worry. Worry is another one of those immobilizing, paralyzing, crippling emotions. Worrying about something. Worry was once described by some speaker that I heard talking as sitting in a rocking chair expecting to go somewhere. You can't because you're worried. It's really just a waste of time. And fear is the sister to worry. Unfortunately, in some cases, they're the conjoined twins. They come in a package. Here's the key. In order to actually transform, we have to change what's going on in our minds. And the only way to do that is to read. And so that is one of the reasons that we're constantly recommending books, so that hopefully by the end of this transformation, the information that we've been able to take in, that we've been able to read about, the things that we've been able to learn, they will begin to change something. Now, let's talk about fear. I'm going to look at it from a very different perspective as well. And this is written about in a book by Malcolm Gladwell. I love him and I love his writing. And I'm always talking about different books that he's written because he is one of the foremost modern day thought leaders. And what's interesting, Malcolm Gladwell in his book, Talking to Strangers, I would strongly encourage you to get that book. Listen to it on audio tape because it's very good. It's actually got a musical background, and Malcolm Gladwell himself reads that book. So it's so good. And again, it's Talking to Strangers. He brings up a very interesting point, and it really deals with a weakness in the American culture and the way that we've been groomed. And it's even a re-grooming that's happening right now that's even more insidious than what he speaks of in the book. In the book, Talking to Strangers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about the fact that we have the propensity in our country to give the stranger the benefit of the doubt. This is something that has been instilled through modern day culture. This is not the way we started. Now we're in the position where when we meet a stranger, we assume the best of the stranger versus the old days when we were told, don't talk to strangers, beware of strangers, because strangers are not always good. And what's interesting in this book, he talks about the Sandra Bland murder that happened on the side. Well, it didn't happen on the side of a road, but it started with her being pulled over and questioned. And he actually chronicles how poor communication and talking to strangers can go terribly, terribly bad. It's a book, I believe it's very beneficial and worth reading because he actually shows where just because of a difference in understanding and thought processes, two people that happen to cross paths on one particular day were speaking the wrong language to each other, and it caused a very serious and sadly tragic outcome, and it was initiated by engaging with a stranger. And what I want you to just imagine for a moment is that what we actually do, we give strangers the benefit of the doubt. And this is another common flaw in our American way, if you will. We give the stranger the benefit of the doubt. They're not as bad as someone says. No, this is probably a good person. They just look a little scary. No, they're really not scary. They're just sleep deprived. We make every excuse for the stranger. But you know what's interesting? And this is something that just popped in my head when I was thinking about this. We have no mercy on those that are closest to us. The stranger, we give every benefit of the doubt. And the person that actually loves us, the person that's actually been placed in our lives by choice or birth, that person, we have no mercy, no tolerance, no grace for them. What has happened? This is not the way it should be. There are principles that govern success in life, and they're based on all of those fundamentals, like the 10 Commandments and all of those things. Treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated. That still holds true. But at the same time, when you read that book, Talking to Strangers, I believe it's going to have a profound impact on every single engagement you have with others. With that being said, I want to wrap up with a thought. If you could change something, something about your life for the better, what would that be? Would it be a new eating regimen, a new exercise regimen? Would it be, what would it be? And if you could give up something that was really a waste of time, something that you do in idle moments to totally and completely waste time, that you could give up and use that time to build yourself, to work on your reading, to do something that will improve you, what would that be? What are you willing to give up? Transformation is not free and it's not easy. So at this point, if you don't feel as though you're paying a price, I hate to tell you this, you are not transforming. Transformation only comes at a cost. We have to bear down and press in, lean into the process, and it is going to be uncomfortable. It's just the way it works. If there were an easy way, a button we could push, I'd be the first person to tell you. I think microwaves were a unique invention, but this does not work that way. In order for us to actually realize our purpose and the plan that's been preordained, designed by God for us, in order for us to realize it, we are going to have to go through the difficult process of transformation. And many times it's going to involve pruning. And when I say pruning, just like a plant, in our yard, we have a beautiful rhododendron. And this particular plant flowers every year. And I love it because you don't have to do anything to it. Just make sure it gets water. And this thing is just absolutely beautiful and it's just vibrant and all of that. But what's interesting is every year, not every other year, every year in the spring, that thing needs to be pruned. And you must actually, it's in the fall. I apologize. Every fall, it has to be pruned, which is cutting back a lot of those branches that grow off. And that allows it to bloom very beautifully the following year. In our lives, we're going to have to get rid of something. Something's going to have to be pruned away. There's got to be something. And when we find that thing, then we've now found time to invest in ourselves. The only person that will be able to provide for you in the future is you now. I believe this time that we are investing is priceless. This is your breakout year. This is a breakout season. But in order to realize the fullness of your potential and your destiny, it is going to be critical that we hone in and we focus like laser on the path that's been placed before us. It is not going to be easy, but it will have been worth it. With that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next episode. And thank you for tuning in to the No Time to Waste podcast. It has been my pleasure. And I am your guide, Marcus Murray. Thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you on the very next episode. Take care for now. Bye bye.